Yeah. You know what I mean?
How many people would want to get a plumber, an electrician, someone to build, someone to renovate for their own property? Majority of people. How many people here want to one day buy and own a property? Guys, I miss the exercise. We're doing a quick exercise. How many people want to buy and own a property? Right.
All of us.
How many people, once you've bought a property, you'll one day want to rent it out? Okay. And how many people, if you are tired of a property, you want to sell it? All right. And sometimes selling a property is not because you're tired of it. It's because you want to flip it. Maybe you've done the numbers. You realize that I've bought this property. It's got enough equity. I'm going to renovate it and increase the value. And after I've renovated it, I'm going to sell it. So AdProp as a platform, I'm sure a lot of you are on the platform right now. On it, you'll find a property to buy the property, renovate it, and list it back on AdProp. So you go on, you either list or add a property. You'll register as somebody who wants to add a property, and the property you want to rent out, you'll be able to add it easily onto AdProp, and it will go live within 5 minutes. It will be on the market, on the internet, for you to find somebody to buy or somebody to rent your property. And once you've got that property rented out or listed, you are able to manage it through the platform that we've built within the system, where you are able to invoice the tenant, manage the property, and manage the maintenance. On the maintenance part, there's a part that says service providers there, as you can see. On service providers like those of you who've raised your hands, they've put up their services on the platform. And based on the platform's location or the person's location, when you're looking for a plumber, an electrician, somebody to fix your geyser, you can request it right on the platform, and the nearest person to you will give a code and come and fix your maintenance issue. That helps with vetting the people and ensuring that the right people are actually coming to you. And should something happen, you are able to find those people. Another thing that you need as a property investor, apart from being able to list the property, being able to list it for sale or list it for rental, and being able to manage it, sending out leases, sending out invoices, you need to be able to generate financial reports. Say you've got a portfolio of 10 properties that you've bought from Uputsia, from Ekasi Noble Properties, and all of those properties have got tenants in them. You need to be able to then generate financial reports on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. AdProp automatically generates those financial reports for you. So that's what AdProp is about. So this conversation that we are going to be having, that's why Mr. Mogobe is part of it, is mainly property-related information. So we're going to take some questions and answer for the next 30-35 minutes around property and around anything that you would have wanted to ask Mr. Mogobe or me, and that will solidify the property part of the conversation for today. So this part of the section of It's More Than Just Money, we can say, is brought to you and sponsored by AdProp. All right? So, do we have some questions around property investing, property development? Buy, renovate, rent out, refinance, repeat.
Yeah.
Brr. Any questions around that?
We'll quickly take questions.
All of brr can be found on EdProp, by the way. You have to buy the property. You have to rent it out on the platform. When you want to renovate it, you'll find service providers that will provide the renovations. When you want to rent it out, you'll find tenants there. When you want to refinance, we are partnering with banking and financial institutions for you to be able to get favorable rates. We've embedded some mortgage originators. It's not live yet, but it will be live, where you are able to get financing through the platform. And then lastly, you will be able to repeat the entire process on EdProp. So please, guys, all 100 plus of you, please do register on EdProp. It doesn't cost you anything immediately. We would love. We are currently at 200 plus signups. Over 30 people have already listed properties there. We've been around for about a month now. We need more people to list their properties and use the platform. And most importantly, because it's going to add value to them. It's a platform that's going to revolutionize how we do property in the country. More specifically, make it possible for even the lady in the township that has got 10 units to be able to list them on the platform immediately without going through the hooks and jumps of other bigger platforms.
May I repeat my earlier question? So I said I've got a property, but which is in my personal name, and I want to bond it so as to release funds to be able to buy another property where I want to add rooms. So I wanted to find out in terms of getting credit card and using it with my own money, not necessarily the lended money, to try and improve my credit score. So that I can be able to negotiate a better rate for the bond.
Is the property currently financed?
No, I bought it cash.
You bought it cash.
Yeah.
Do you currently have a job or an income? All right. Have you tried to buy a property yet? Yes. You see, that's where the problem is. You cannot negotiate a rate that you've never been given before. So there's no rule that says get a credit card first before you buy a property or a car. My sister, if you want to buy a property...
I do not see how that would assist your credit rating.
Yeah.
By borrowing against your credit card. I don't see how that helps you. In fact, by and large, because of the rate of interest that is generated by credit cards, because they are very predatory in nature. By that I mean you could have up to 30%. I think some banks, it ranges between 18 and 30%. So for that reason, I would not encourage people to be thinking in terms of using their credit card for their property acquisitions, unless you have a plan. What do I mean unless you have a plan? If it is just a temporary measure and you are really have your back against the wall and you have a deal of a lifetime, and the idea is to ensure that within a short space of time already there's an arrangement with your bank for the cash to come in, and you are using the credit card, which is very dangerous, by the way, just to hold the property. Just to hold the property for a short space of time. But by and large, I would desperately discourage you from using your credit card to acquire property or even a share thereof. I do not see how getting a credit card run-up or getting a credit card debt enhances your credit rating. If it's a banker telling you that, he needs to speak to me, because I have a master's degree in banking and finance, the law of international trade, banking and finance. So I've never heard of anything like that.
So just go buy the property
first.
Yeah. Don't overthink it. Put an offer to purchase. Negotiate the interest rate when it comes.
Thank you. Can we have another question?
And when you get it listed on EdProp.
Thanks so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I've just got two questions. One related to AdProp and one a general question regarding the purchase of property. So my first question in AdProp is, what sort of criteria have been put in place in terms of vetting your plumbers, electricians, and guys like that?
Okay. So in terms of the plumbers and electricians and everybody that comes on the platform, there's documentation that the platform will ask for, which includes the CIPC certificate or an ID if somebody is a sole trader, which generally the vetting will also happen for every single person that lists a property on AdProp. So we need to have the person's correct details. And there's facial recognition that we are implementing as well onto that, because the most important feature here is the safety of our users as well as the safety of the customers.
I was going to ask you whether you get a police clearance report.
A police clearance report, no, we don't get it. But either like it's like when you list on
Because in Botswana, we call it fingerprints. You just go there, they take your fingerprints, and then they issue a quick note that you don't have any crimes and stuff like that.
generally in South Africa, you're not able to open a business when you're a criminal. So you want the CIPC part already is going to handle that part.
Okay, answered.
You know that, right? Yes.
Okay. And the second question, what forms of research would you recommend one applies before they actually purchase a property?
You're talking about due diligence, right? Yeah, there are basic things for due diligence. First, you verify the title. Does the person who's selling you really trying to really own that property? You may want to do a deeds search to check whether it's registered in their name at the deeds registry. In Botswana, where we have things like land boards, you go to the land board of the particular area, could be the Kwenen land board, Tlokwen land board, because we still have tribal territories there, and verify that the registration is okay. From there, of course, you have to bring in a structural engineer to do a structural report. Some banks insist on it, but you may want to bring your own. We bring our own internal engineers and internal experts who are vested in the property. They can tell whether this crack is a serious crack that goes to the foundation that threatens the viability of the building, or whether it's just a crack that can be fixed, and factor that into the thing. And there'll be a detailed report. The good thing about doing that is that you can use that report to then negotiate a lower price. I normally train my mentees to get at least 20% discount from the market price. And you can use that valuation or that system of checking the property, that report rather, to as part of the due diligence. And often when you go to the bank with a report like that, they see that you're a serious investor. It enhances the chances of you getting a loan.
Thank you for that. Do we have another question this side? Please just introduce yourself and ask the question.
Okay, thanks. My name is Danny from Mafike. Yeah. So I would like to just ask your advice in terms of what to do if early in your property investment journey you over committed yourself. Like for example, I had around 10,000 to spend on property. So I probably did not do my research properly. So I saw this property for, I think the bond was 9,000 and the monthly expenses I think were around 1,000 or so in Barito in Durban. So I think I did not properly look at the area and whether I would get tenants and all that. So I purchased this property and now it's like I'm stuck with this property. Sometimes I have tenants, sometimes I don't have it. And then
What's wrong with the property? The location?
Okay, I don't think the location is bad because it's not far from the beach. So what we initially did, we had a fixed rental sort of type of thing, but it did not manage to cover the monthly, the bond and all the expenses during the month. So my question is, now when you're in this type of situation where you feel like you start with a property that maybe you could have put your eggs in different baskets, and if you are stuck in this one property, how do you then deal also with the anxiety that you feel like you need to get another property or you need to be moving, but you feel like you have committed yourself to this one property, and for you to get another one, you'll probably, not be able to afford it because most of your disposable income you used towards the property.
It looks like you overpaid from what you are saying. In other words, you made a payment which does not cover the mortgage. I mean, you purchased at a price which is way above market, and as a result, the rentals that you are getting do not cover the mortgage. Is that correct? Yeah, I think property. There are two statements that people make about property which need to be corrected. People will commonly say, with property you can't go wrong. What your example shows is that not only can you go wrong, you can go spectacularly wrong. The second part of this story is that property can be forgiving in the long run. You need to find a way to quickly stabilize that property. You need to find out whether there are any enhancements that you can do to that property on a short-term basis to attract a better quality tenant, to see whether they can pay more. You need to consider whether or not you can find somebody to get the property off your back by selling it as quickly as possible. You need to consult the market for that. But there's a sense in which this property can really drag you down and preventing you from taking that extra step. Because when you go to the bank and they see you are in the red on another property, they won't be in a hurry to assist you. So you need to find a way of stabilizing. In the same way that when a person is sick, they rush him to ICU. Your situation needs for you to get yourself around experts who can assist you to stabilize the situation, to give you that extra oxygen, to put in those matumpo, because the property has matumpo right now. I always give that an example of a life situation that it can happen in a property where you have not done your due diligence, you have not worked your numbers, because numbers never lie. I mean, I had it in my presentation up there, but I didn't get a chance to cover it. Numbers don't lie. And there are certain numbers like yield, there's ROIC, there's also things like the cap rate and so on, so many other key numbers. Normally, I can tell you in a space of 5 minutes, just by doing calculations on the back of a napkin, whether a property is a yay or a nay, by looking at certain key metrics, which it is clear that in that particular instance, you have failed to look at. Do you want to add on to that?
I can add on to that. Wait. Hang on. There are two statements he made. You can go wrong, but it can be forgiving. I know the area where your property is. It's not all doom and gloom because your property is in Palito. Your property is in a holiday destination. So you need to put up the property on Airbnb, Booking.com, and all those platforms. So what you need to do now is to realize that long-term rental on the property is not working. Now, what you need to be doing is first determining, is it in an estate? Do they allow Airbnb? They allow Airbnb. So what you need to be doing, because you are fortunate that the estate where the property is, they allow Airbnb, and Durban North is one of the most booming places when it comes to holidaying. Even when we go to Durban as a team for the It's More Than Just Money, a business and property seminar, we get our Airbnbs around Durban North, Mhlanga, Palito, what's the last area? Mdloti. We stayed in Mdloti the other time. So that area in and of itself is booming when it comes to being a holiday destination. So get furniture, put it up on Airbnb. You're not going to lose anything. Already you are in the red. So the best way to bounce back is now turn it into a short-term rental in the form of an Airbnb. So you can start generating now daily income on the property.
And this time, do your numbers. Know that Airbnb requires full-time care. You may need to hire somebody who changes the sheets on a daily basis. So the numbers and the considerations are very different, but it can be lucrative. Perhaps you need to meet my good friend, Witness, sit down with him. He's 10 days.
I charge 5,000 per hour.
Yeah.
But I'm the right person. I can help you.
My name is Mapaseka from Soweto. I work for Ekasi Property.
You must say I own Ekasi.
No. So basically,
that's where she's heading.
So my comment before Mdaka Mompoloki, I commend you very much, and I thank all about the witness for bringing such people like you today, because it's very rare. As a Khanzi, who do the property developer or people that owns the buildings, 37 scrapers and all of that. So for those who don't know you, Nick Cooper, maybe if it's possible just to share your journey of buying the land, the rezoning process, how was it? Is it difficult like most South Africa more where, you know, sometimes, I mean, the deeds office in Johannesburg, Nesa Beregi, a few weeks ago, almost to 6 weeks, the people were not working there. So there's so many challenges in South Africa for property development. So as of today, I just want to say thank you for attending such events, because some of us are being inspired with your beautiful wife. The family part that the witness was speaking about, I'm also inspired. So I pray for that as well.
Mr. Momp,
Yeah.
your story, are you going to go on Mogobe Plaza?
And I will quickly just summarize and answer and just say, look, I'm happy to be with her. She's, given me 3 lovely children, 2 boys and 1 girl. The boys are 30 and 25, and the girl is almost 20. And it's beautiful to have that situation and to have all of them involved in the family, which I think is the most desirable position. And when I look at my mentors, I mentioned the 3 mentors that I have, all of them, without exception, have done the same. So it's a blueprint that I believe works, and I would encourage all of you to take the advice of Zbu when he said, bring your children along, force them to attend those meetings when you can still control them. They will thank you later. That's what we are having. But in terms of the process of land acquisition in Botswana, it's involved. You need to obviously look at zoning. Yes, we have our own devils. We do wrestle some alligators and some crocodiles in terms of dealing with bureaucracy sometimes. We did, in 2022, for instance, there was a change in the legislation, the infrastructure of the tribal land, which is, as you know, the Gaborone as a city has spilled over to tribal areas like Tlokweng and Kweneng, and as well as Khatleng, 3 tribes around us, and as well as Ramots, actually 4. So what that means is that tribal land or land boards are in charge of a lot of our land. So with the amendment of the Tribal Land Act in 2022, where they changed certain provisions to make sure that everything goes through the land boards, our transfer process has become tedious and laborious. And you cry about your processes here in South Africa, but we are crying. I mean, there are land activists, and there are people who are toying on this issue. There's a guy called Sisini who's always shaking the public and dealing with bureaucracy on that. So we do have our problems. Sometimes if we are to swap problems between Botswana and South Africa, I give you my problems, you'll say, no, take your problems back. You might end up saying that. But having said that, with that attitude of grit, which I talked about, that attitude of persistence, that attitude of looking at the goal, because the obstacles will always be there. You have to accept them as part of the game. So zoning, yes, it's involved. Getting the land board to get those approvals, it's a very taxing, laborious exercise. You need competent lawyers, obviously, in place. You need also yourself to have your staff trained in dealing with land boards and so on. But it is quite an exercise. There is, of course, the issue of development plans, where some people purchase land without checking what the intended development plan is that has been gazetted. And if there's anything that I want to emphasize, which I teach very strongly about, is the importance of not just relying on the title reflected on your title deed or your certificate or on your lease, but also checking the development plan at the relevant office. What is the office where you can check development plans? Town and country planning. Town and country planning is very, very important. So we do have those problems, but after you've been at it for 2-3 decades, you kind of get used to it and get to deal with the challenges as you go along.
After 3 decades. We'll take, we have a good 10 minutes left. So I'm going to take 2 questions this side. There's 5 questions that side. So maybe let's just make it quick and brief. Direct your question to Mr. Mogobe or witness, be as clear as you can.
Good day, everyone. Mdaka Mompoloki from Victoria.
From who? You have to be specific so we are short. Like she was just advising you to be direct.
Okay. Property. But talking about compliance, what is needed, because village, and it's a BNB, it's not a rental, a monthly rental, BNB, and then in terms of compliance, at prop, is there more BNB in terms of advertisement and stuff.
Great question. You see, luckily in South African villages, most houses that are built there, they don't require the plans to go through the city council. Yes, and you can, on agricultural land as well as land in the villages, there isn't strong compliance required when it comes to the kind of building that you are building. Because the plans, you can build without the plans being necessarily approved. And how does AdProp come into play? I think on our AdProp site, you are able to list a room. It might not necessarily operate the same as Airbnb or bookings.com, but definitely you can list a room for a short stay, isn't it, Tammy? So if you want to list, let's say you've got 20 rooms in your guest house, you can put them up on AdProp and somebody will be able to find the place where you are listing your room. Good thing is it's a lot easier to do. And like we said, because it's on the market, it's on the internet, our SEO is also quite strong on the platform. Your room will be recommended. So in terms of assisting you to be able to get bookings and all of that, I think we do have within our algorithm to be able to assist you with that. And then also, let me add to what I said. You know, when you want to build something, always enlist the services of professionals. So a lot of the questions was, what's the compliance? Find an architect that's going to do the plan for you, right? Whether or not it's going to be approved by the municipality or taken through the municipality is a different story. But have someone draw up a professional house plan for you or building plan so that your building is built correctly following the guidelines of that plan. And then it will determine whether or not you're going to need engineers as well, because with some buildings you need engineering drawings. You can't just put up a structure. Even if it is in the township or in the rural areas, do it properly. Have an engineer. My brother behind you there with a blue jacket and Mazaza there, he runs a very big construction company. He builds houses of 100 million, 200 million sometimes, Those are the people that you need to be speaking to, because professionally, he's an engineer and he runs a construction company. So not everything needs to be self-managed depending on the level at which you are building. You understand what I mean? Some projects bring professionals so that professionals can do it for you. Not necessarily. But unless you want to be graded, remember the industry you're getting into is not really building or property. It's the hospitality industry. And with hospitality, there's grading, Mr. Momp, isn't it?
Yes.
So for you to get that grading 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, you need to follow professional guidelines for that industry so that you can be able to get
and if you want to list, because we do have a couple of lodges, one in Maung.
And Maung is village, no?
It's a village, but for you to list, they will require certain regulatory things to have been complied with for you to list, and things like what's the other one?
Bookings.com.
Bookings.com. And they will want that for sure.
Amazing. We can take the next question, please.
Thanks for listening. Mine is quite simple. What are the advantages and the disadvantages of agricultural land or agricultural holding land? Because the reason saying is that I've acquired that land, I think around 2020, which the bank managed to finance it in a very short space of time. But even today, I'm still struggling to resell property because it's starting to take me from here to Boston.
Yeah. Rezoning is a big issue, my brother. And I think Putsia next to you there. You want to take it? You want to say something? Putsia as well can take that question. Precious, let's allow Putsia to take the question.
Putsia?
Yeah, he's there at the back there.
He knows about zoning.
Yeah, he's dealing with zoning issues himself.
From Casino Properties. So, there's no way people. Okay. So, this topic agriculture when it comes to rezoning. So when World Cup was announced, I would say especially in Gauteng side, West Rand, when they announced the World Cup, so they have zoned all the property that they wanted to zone. Like Mr. Mdaka Mompoloki a 20-year plan. These guys spend a 250-year plan of the development that they want to do, especially in South Africa. And then they defunctioned all the rezoning offices. So there's been development that have been stuck for 20 years, 30 years, because what they've done, this was supposed to be private. They put it to politicians, Uguti Merebabange Ama positions, so that nothing can run. Because remember, they've already have a 200-year plan that have approvals, everything is done, and then all the agricultural land was not part of the South African plan. So they didn't want any new upcoming developers that are going to develop. That's why the rezoning process is very difficult. But you only get to know which Butama offices work on, and they are not operating anymore when you start the process, because there's a process where your rezoning is on government gazette, and then me as a neighbor, I'm gonna comment and say, look, I don't like this guy, so I don't like this thing to go forward. And then there is no tribunal office where we need to take that. I prove we would have done everything according to book. You need to deny me. If I'm taking 20 years to say, no, it's fine, it can go, it's gonna take 20 years. Because the development offices in South Africa have been defunctioned. So Tina, we're fighting about day-to-day. Authority, the head of infrastructure, only 8 years in office. But there's no experience that is more than him. Maybe figure 90 years, but there's another extension for the 10 years. So basically, we want to develop South Africa, but there's just boundaries. I always tell about we are living in a modernized apartheid system that won't change. And I always tell people, Tina, they have threatened us with the system, and we can also create these systems ourselves. But there's just a lot of red tapes. But yeah, we keep those doors. You challenge them. You must just challenge them, because by us, if you don't challenge them, you get stuck. One of our development in Beresford for 250 homes, 120 apartments, got an objection for 3 years because of the neighbors where we are black people. So we had to fight with them for 3 years. For 3 years, fighting with them, until one they said, no, as it is fine, we can let it go. So you're not dealing with a government office or a professional office, you're dealing with an individual who are racist, who are saying this is our field, because there was a post around 80s or 60s where a black man was not supposed to own land. The regular life you were holding land. So those rules, they still operate, but everything is just been shut. That's why I call us as paid slaves, because why should you pay property for 20 years? Why can't it be 2 years? Why can't it be a year? So the rezoning offices, especially in Joburg, are messed up. Like manager, such a high office, this office couldn't work for 6 weeks because they are renting to a landlord, and they don't want to pay the landlord, and the landlord doesn't want to service the building. You see such things that we need to deal with. And when you go to the rezoning process, abantu bakithi who are in a government position, if you are here, as full servants, we need to pay you to do your work while you are being paid well by the government. Like the rezoning process, it's a process that's supposed to take 6 months maximum. Because our town planners, engineers, architecture, those guys, they don't sleep. They make sure they give you a good file. But once your file gets into the hand of the government, you're stuck because they don't know you. And then you need to go bribe them in order for them to make your file to move. Otherwise, your file will sit there for 20 years. Then you end up saying this doesn't work.
My name is Masoko Mdaka, and I am a registered candidate property purchase firm PPRA. I want to ask a question, and also I'm seeking for advice. What is the largest expansion like you can go into? As like, what is the largest thing you can ever be like, this is where I'm ending with property? Like the last stage where you're like, this is the last stage, this is where I'm ending. Like in positions is like CEO, so in property, like what is the latest stage where you're like, this is where I'm ending?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer.
My advice is also from both very successful entrepreneurs. I just want to know, as a very hungry, youthful girl, I want to know, how did you dissect your hunger for success into little manageable goals? Like, this goal is going to lead me here, it's going to go, like, it's going to take me here. Thank you.
Yeah. Your question almost sounds like when is enough enough? Or what is the ultimate? And the answer to that is that, look, like Zbu reminded us this morning, we're in the image of God in terms of how we've been created. And God himself is limitless. And there's really, really no limit to what you can achieve. The only person who can limit you is yourself. So to me, an attitude of limitless says that when it comes to property, there is no limit. As long as you have the resources, as long as you have the desire and you have the wherewithal to help your community, because it's not just about enriching yourself. It's a question of positioning yourself in such a way that you offer employment, you offer employment opportunities for others directly and indirectly within the property space, and you have a sense of fulfillment through that growth. So the way I look at it is that God will continually give you opportunities, because I think the Bible says that if you can be trusted with a little, you can then be entrusted with a lot. So you keep growing and growing and growing. I once asked my mentor and said, when will you be satisfied? When will enough be enough? He retorted and asked me, when are you going to stop breathing? I mean, my growth and my activity is like breathing. It's what turns me on. It's what keeps me going. So for that reason, I think you'll keep going. And there's a joke, to answer the second part of your question, about how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And the fact that other people from even worse backgrounds than you have reached very, very high levels where they are way, way above multi-millionaires, multi-billionaires, but they came from humble beginnings, which in some cases are worse than yours. There are so many billionaires who came from homeless backgrounds. There are so many billionaires who came from very, very challenging situations. That to me is proof positive that as long as you bite that elephant one bite at a time, have those goals identified, written down, and you cut them one step at a time. A lot of the big projects that we did, we call them our magnificent obsessions. Why do I call them magnificent obsessions? They start off as drawings. They start off as pictures on a piece of paper. We don't even have enough funding for them. We don't have enough experts for them. But it's because it's a magnificent obsession that obsesses us. Today we make a phone call. The next day we write a letter. The third day we meet professionals. The fourth day we're on site. And so on and so forth. One tiny little bite at a time. The key thing is to identify those big, hairy, audacious goals. We call them BHAGs. We learned from a book by Collins called, From Good to Great. That you just bite one little tiny bite at a time. As long as the goals are there, you'll drive towards them. Whatever your mind can conceive, you can achieve. I'm sure Witness wants to add that.
So she asked, one of the things you asked was, what's the highest level when it comes to property investing? And I think the highest level when it comes to property is the level where you do the deal of your dream. Because we can't tell you what the level is. You might be thinking his level is the level, but there's a Grant Cardone that exists in the property world. So after Grant Cardone, there's also the billionaires that are in China. That's another level of property as well. But for you, since you are a candidate,
in fact, among billionaires, Grant Cardone is considered one of the smaller ones.
The smaller one.
In America.
Yes.
There's some big players there, huge players. People who own a third of New York, for instance, and, part of Los Angeles. I mean, I read about these guys. There are people who really are doing massive things in America even. Grant Cardone is braggadocious. What's the word? He's noisy. He appears everywhere. But there are people who are doing a lot more than him, who are a lot quieter.
So, you spoke about the fact that you are a candidate property practitioner. I did an interview with a guy called Rali Mampeule, Rali, right? So he himself as well started off as you. The first deal he did when he bought a Ches Everett franchise. Ches Everett is one of the estate agencies. He did a deal where he was selling 60 units and put an offer on all those units as a buyer. And he sold all of those units and made his first 7 million at the age of 21. So, meaning there isn't any limit in terms of what you can do. It all depends on how you look at it and how you see yourself in the bigger scheme of things. He went on to narrate that as he went on in his property career, he's bought and sold land at 250 million, 350 million, 400 million, right? So where he is now, he's built billions of rands in portfolio when it comes to property investing and other businesses that he's invested in. So it always goes back to what is your dream and where do you want to find yourself? If you see yourself as just an agent, that's what you will be. If you see yourself as somebody who's playing at a bigger scale, that's what you will do. For instance, AdProp is not a property development company, but it plays in the property space. It's a technology company, but it's property mixed with technology. So you look at what you are doing, what you're dreaming of becoming, and looking at how can I play a role in the market. It might not be property directly, but it can be influencing the property industry. It's more than just money. It's not a property company, but it plays in the property space, in the business space. We are podcasting, we are building relationships. All of that, you do that so that you can do deals one day at a higher level. So as a property practitioner, what is the goal? Do you just want to sell houses? Do you want to do deals? Do you want to build a company? What do you want to do? We can't answer that for you. You see, for instance, he's on his path. We talked about Grant Cardone. He's on his path. I'm on my path. My path is mixed with building an education company, building a podcasting and media business, building a property company, building a technology company. All of those things are on my path. So the question will always be, with your path, which direction do you want? There are no limits, by the way. Like, it's not written that do this. If you don't do this, you won't succeed. No, do what you think is on your path and what you are gifted in doing. The worst thing you can do is want to be like another man. I respect Mr. Mogobe, but I don't want to be like him. And I know he loves me, but he doesn't want me to be like him. Then it would be boring to sit with me because then we have two Mogobes.
I'll talk to myself.
So you will appreciate me being myself and be different.
Yes, yes.
I also appreciate you because you're different. I can learn from you and ask myself, how do I take that, add it into my life?
You know, he made me very curious. What did you put in the 20-year plan? What are you going to be in 20 years? Do you mind sharing that? You made me very curious by saying...
the lady?
The lady, yeah.
Yeah.
You made me very curious by asking this question and the way he's answering it. What have you put in that 20-year plan that we're preparing this afternoon? What will you be in 20 years?
What will I be?
Yes.
Wow, when I think of it, in 20 years, I'll be a very successful woman. I'll have built my company to the highest grade. I'll be a very, very, very successful property investor. Not necessarily developer, but investor is. And I'll be someone in the creatives. I like fashion. I like fashion. So I also think I'll be very big also in that world.
There's the answer. It's in fashion.
Yes. Very interesting.